Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Adrian and Shondi Starks coming to you for another uh, time of talking love, relationships, family, finances, everything that pertains to living the best life that we possibly can because we're ordained to experience that quality of life. What a tragedy it would be if we get to the finish line and look back with regret. That is what we hope that we can help individuals avoid. So thanks for tuning in and hit that like and share button because I believe that we're going to touch on some stuff tonight that's going to be encouragement, it's going to be enrichment, and we don't want to keep it to ourselves. So thank you so much for liking and sharing, and buckle your seatbelt.
So, hello everyone. Happy Monday. We're excited to be here. Um, Last week we started on something. We started, but we didn't finish. And I'm one of those people. I hate to open people up and not close them back effectively. So, just in that. For the sake of time, we kind of cut it short. We put a pin in it last week, but we want to go back to expectations or unmet expectations because we believe in just the type of work we do. We do a lot of ministry. You all know we're in full time ministry, but we also do a lot of impromptu ministry as it relates to marriages and relationships, and we see it over and over again. And people talk about some of the big boys like finances and communication being some of them, and of course infidelity issues like that. Being some of the biggest issues in marriage and causing marital dis, dissolve,
Uh-huh.
disillusion,
Destruction.
destruction. But we kind of disagree with some of those things that you've heard out there. We believe that unmet expectations is one of the major um, issues that the enemy uses, that Satan uses to cause marriages to end.
So now this again is not that those other elements are not playing a factor in the discord and the devastation
Mhm.
of relationships and family, but unmet expectations. I think really, if we are able to really flesh this thing out and dig deeper, is really what the root is proving to be.
Yeah, because people have unrelated, unmet expectations or unreasonable expectations regarding their sex life, communication. Some women think that men are supposed to talk back to them. At least that's what I thought. Like if you talk, that you should get a response. And so um that could cause major issues and cause the woman, especially if she has a soul wound as it relates to rejection and she doesn't feel like her husband is communicating with her, it could cause her to lose hope because it's one of her core needs that's not being met.
And who knew that the expectation could very well be in terms of communication that it be an immediate response. Sometimes I think that there's a need to process our thoughts and our phrases before we speak, because we all know that once it's out, it can't be recovered, right?
Mhm.
Once it's spoken, there is no real um, capacity to unspeak it. And so I think there is a great need for us to appreciate the expectations that come with relationship in general, and then specifically the expectations that come with that person whom you have chosen to walk through this life with and to do life in a very unique and personal and intimate way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So where do we start from here, agent? Because you know, Oh, I thought of something I was going to share. I think it's something that couples need to talk about initially. I mean, immediately, because we were years down the road before we realized we weren't giving each other what
Say it.
we maybe not even needed, but what we expected.
Right.
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 Right. Because I think, and I think I may have shared this last week, I think sometimes God gives us exactly what we need in our spouse. And so we think that's an actual need, but it's really, in some cases, just an expectation. And where do we get these expectations from? That's key. That's key.
That's
That
very
question right there,
important.
because some people get their expectations from their relationship. I mean, from what they've seen,
Right.
whether it be in their home,
Mm-hmm.
like what they grew up around. Okay. Um, it could be based on something that they see on TV. You'd be surprised.
Nah,
Where
I'm not surprised at all.
or
Keep
social
going.
media,
Mm-hmm.
because or you may even your expectation may be off because it's based on a lie in the first place, because you see some woman telling her story about what her man does for her, and you see it on social media, and you're like, that's exactly what I want, that's what I'm expecting, that's what I deserve. And you don't know what she deals with when she gets behind those closed doors. And so sometimes we base our expectations on something that's not real in the first place.
Yeah. So moments ago, Shonda just said that we were years into our marriage before we really started dealing with expectations. I don't think that we're alone in that.
Mm-mm.
I think we are in great company. And that's partly because it is not something that it is, we're trained about. Often I've heard people talk about how there was no practical, intentional education in terms of our finances through our schooling, the way the curriculum is for our schooling. Think about it. It's the same way when it comes to marriage. If you don't have a strong example in your home, and if you haven't enjoyed the benefit and the blessing of mentorship, you probably walked into a relationship, a marriage relationship, or even a prior relationship with some fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
or some unrealistic model framing that you have been holding your mate accountable to, and they haven't even been apprised of it.
Yeah. Like, I'm thinking of a practical example, because I always like to just to share where it hit home for us. I mean, initially, like when me and Adrian first dated, he used to spend a lot of money on expensive gifts for me. You're not gonna say anything?
Not a word. You're not finished.
He used to spend tons of money, a lot more money than necessary on gifts. And then he would expect me to
Receive them.
respond,
Receive them.
even receive them. And I would always say, take that back. That's too expensive. Now, there's a lot that we can unpack there. Why did I feel like I didn't deserve diamond earrings on my first birthday? My first birthday. I mean, what that could have been something that was in me that made me not want to, I don't know. But I remember then he bought me diamond studs. Well, y'all, I have always been a big earring person. So I'm like, if you're gonna buy diamonds, I mean, like, it just wasn't something that I appreciated. I did appreciate the thought, but I was like, okay, after the thought, like, oh my gosh, you thought enough of me to get me diamond stud earrings? Very, very expensive, like spent over $2,000. And I'm like, and what am I thinking the whole time? Oh my gosh, if I lost one, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And how did you react?
It was interesting to know that that's one of her feedback, because I never heard this about the losing it. And think about this. She was grappling with the potential of losing it. I never knew that.
Mhm.
until just now. All right. This is so real, y'all. That's what one of the things you're going to get when you tune into this particular channel is you're going to get real. That's the first time I ever heard it. How, but what did I hear? I don't want this gift because that's not what I want. Whether it was a matter of affordability, it was not really the that which was communicated. It just was hurtful to think that I thought enough of you to give you diamond earrings and you didn't receive them. And the thing about it is this was prior to our marriage, I mean, excuse me, our parenting season.
Mhm.
And so we were far more liquid than we've ever been, right? And I'm saying to myself, I just want to bless you. And now one of the phrases that you may hear very many people say is don't block my blessing, receive when I want to bless you, receive it. And this is literally my thought process. This is my wife. I've dated so many other people and didn't find them to be as worthy and deserving as I wanted her to feel and to know I felt about her. But it was a struggle for her to receive. And that was because I didn't understand her love language as well as I should. And I did not understand her expectations. She didn't understand mine. And it became a separating factor when it didn't need to be.
Yeah. And so Adrian would go out like, okay, so next time I'm gonna buy her like a Coach pocketbook, or I'll go out and like he kept buying expensive gifts. And for those who don't know me, like I'm an accountant, I'm kind of practical. I spend that kind of money on other people, but I don't really need it. And the more he kept doing it, I felt like he wasn't hearing me. I don't know. I'm so I was like, is he trying to buy me off? Like, what'd you do? Why you keep buying me these expensive gifts? Because I've told you, I don't want you spending all that money on me. I'd rather put it into a nice piece of furniture or something like that. And it caused so much contention. And so finally, I remember talking to someone about it. And I'm like, we are really having issues because he keeps buying me expensive gifts. And I remember a wise woman, we talked about her and her husband the other day. And she said, just receive it and be thankful. And yeah, that was the hardest thing for me to do because I was counting the cost. And and she said, just receive it. I'm like, but he's not listening to me. That's not even my love language. I wish he'd just come home a few minutes early and rub my back. And it was just something that what was supposed to be such a good thing caused so much contention because we weren't hearing each other. We had different expectations. What did you expect me to do when you gave me those gifts?
To be appreciative.
And what else?
To be appreciative. Oh, and to bless a brother. Hey, we're going to be real, right? Right. I mean, I did want a reciprocal blessing.
I couldn't even bless the brother because I'm thinking about $2,000 when we could have paid this bill or we could have done this.
But my thought was, we are not going to be doing this kind of purchasing always. And you were my wife. You were my queen. I wanted to see you wear diamonds and pearls. And so we needed to communicate.
Yeah. So yeah, we just had major issues because we didn't understand each other and our expectations. Another perfect example just came up. So my first pregnancy, you all, I was like 3 inches. I was 3 inches. Oh, it's been a while. I was 3 centimeters if they dilated, and like 80 or 90% effaced at 31 weeks. So my husband comes up with this wonderful idea to take me to the mountains for a retreat, a last minute getaway, right before, and I'm on partial bed rest. He's like, "Oh, you just lay the seat back. You don't." And yeah, first of all, I don't like mountains. Okay. So I get nervous climbing up mountains. I'm not afraid of heights, but I just hate mountains. Um, but he was convinced. And my boss at that time, remember Larry tried to talk you out of it, like, man, I don't think she gonna like that. I don't think she gonna like that. But because I had listened to a wise woman who told me just to receive it, I said, okay, let's go. But the whole time, yeah, I had never had a baby before. I was scared that I'm like, what if I go into labor in the mountains? I'm only, I didn't even understand fully what 3 centimeters was and all this. And it was a rough trip.
So this was our first child. And for those of you who are new to the Starkses, we have 5. And the first one, I was green. I was unlearned. I was unaware. I didn't realize, the I never heard of a face before. I mean, I knew she was having, a different kind of experience than maybe some others have, but I didn't understand that. And so once again, my desire was to bless my wife and to show her how I loved her and I appreciated her carrying our child. I was excited to be a father for the first time. And I think if we had sat down and did better communicating, which is when expectations would come forth, we didn't do a great job as well as we've come to know the value of communicating. And so when we talk about expectations, that's when it's going to come. So then we've got to ask ourselves, are we sufficiently delving in that way? What would you say was I don't know if I should ask it that way, but clearly communicating is how we're going to learn what those needs are that our mate has that we need to be able to respond to. And so give some examples of how we might be able to venture into those kinds of discussions, creative ways, aside from just sitting down and doing the business model of communicating. What could be some unique ways to just fit in the discussion about expectations?
I need help. I mean, where are you going?
Just random creativity.
I think some moments where we've had some significant breakthroughs is when we've been very, very honest and go deep into what makes us tick or why we think the way we do. Does that make sense? I mean, that's how it's worked for you and me. Like I remember there was something I was doing that just drove you crazy. Like one of my paranoia issues. And I remember we were in the neighborhood, we were walking the dog down the street, and I finally found the root of why something that you did that had nothing to do with you or me, it was all me, my experience, something that happened in my childhood that really disturbed me. And after I went really, really deep and told you what my issue was and why I reacted the way you did, it's like you had understanding.
Right. Let me give you, I'll tell you one that was really, really confusing to me, and
Okay.
it absolutely
Make sure it's something I want to share.
I think it's safe.
Okay.
So early in our marriage, I remember I was teaching, and I said I was gonna, because I had some uh, expenses that I carried over into our relationship from college that I wanted to go ahead and take care of, and so I was going to pick up this third shift job, and she went ballistic. I'll never ever forget it. It was like this comment came forth: if you take this job, it's over. I said, excuse me? If you take this job, it's over. And y'all, my mind, have you ever seen a robot going, I cannot compute, I cannot compute? This is my George Jetson reenactment of their robot. It made zero sense to me. I'm saying to myself, I'm going to take care of a financial obligation. It's not taking us away from our norm. But see, I didn't know that her expectation was for me to stay home through the night because she had an adversity to being alone at night because her dad worked third shift and it did something to her. So again, because, and it was years before I got this understanding about what the issue was for her. So her expectation was beyond, watch me now, it was beyond just staying at home with me. It was that she wanted a sense of security and protection that I just did not grasp until later in our marriage, because that thing just did not make sense to me. I'm like, I'm going to take care of this for us.
Mm-hmm.
It blew my mind when I finally figured out what the expectation was. Go ahead.
But you realize I couldn't even name it. And see, that's the problem. Like, it wasn't until the moment that I exposed it that I even realized what my true fear was. Because we had my father always worked third shift, and we had a break-in. And so it was a trauma, right? But I couldn't call it, but I just knew that my expectation, I didn't want a husband that worked third shift. That was, and I couldn't even put my words to it. And I believe that's most of us. Like, some of the things that we do and some of our triggers, we don't even always know why they're there.
And therefore, we don't even appreciate why we expect our mate to govern him or herself in a certain way, the way we should understand it, to even articulate it so that it can be a met need.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, I was probably over the top more than most women, because I told Adrian what my expectations, but they were the expectations that I knew of. But I had a lot of expectations that I couldn't even speak of because I did not even know that they were there.
So,
and vice versa.
Wouldn't
you agree?
Yeah, in some regards. Yeah. I think one of the clear reasons why we place expectations on our spouse is because of past experience with another person. Mm-hmm. Things that we have received from a prior person that we may have enjoyed, that we may have preferred. And if in fact it was so great, we probably would still be with that person. So obviously something was lacking. And the reason I mention that is because now we carry that and we superimpose it on our mate that we are with, and that creates tremendous voids and volatility,
or
and
something
leads.
we even disliked about that person.
Talk about that.
Well, I mean, if there was something that, like, there were certain things that you had experienced with other women that you didn't like, and you
I get you.
yeah.
And then I get it.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it's real practical.
Yeah.
Things that you don't like or things that you do like,
Right.
that can stand in the way of the relationship flourishing and needs being met.
Yeah.
So
it's like we're running out of time again.
we are. So
how you want it? I think the main thing is we need to understand where our expectation, the core, the where the expectation comes from. Is it something that is, is it something self-centered, or is it something God-centered? Because there are a lot of expectations that both of us have had, that once we realized that it was God, like, I mean, Adrian, think about it. When you met me, you were telling me immediately all the things that I needed to change about me.
Okay.
Right? Because Adrian was like, if you're gonna be my wife, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Okay.
And they were good things, y'all. Okay. Because when he met me, I was a little wild. Surprised he even had an interest in me, because we were in two different kind of worlds. But those expectations, it didn't bother me because it was coming from a good place.
Right.
And so I mean, there were no brainers for me to make those changes. But I think we just need to determine, like, where those expectations come from. Is it like just about him, or is it something that's going to glorify God?
So there's one more thing. So that leads us into this that I really wanted us to deal with. And that is when expectations come from religious and doctrinal beliefs that are outdated or unrealistic, or not fitting a modern context, is what I mean by outdated. So, for example, where individuals are taking and saying that a woman should be pregnant and barefoot all the time, where does that come from? That's cultural. Sometimes it is that there are religious perspectives. For example, many people understand the Catholic religion to have a doctrine against the use of contraceptions of any kind, right? So that can stand in the way as a barrier. And so if the couple doesn't spend the time talking about, this is my expectation of you, it can create a tremendous rift. What is the expectation of, in terms, I remember us talking about having 4 children. We were always in agreement about that because we talked about it and it was something that we had planned to do. We ended up with 5, but that wasn't the original plan, but it proved to be our reality. But I think that when we bring culture and when we bring religion and when we bring doctrine, which is different from religion in some regards, because again, it's the interpretation, it can create tremendous voids where needs don't get met and sorrows and discord prevail.
I wish we had time. Because even I'm thinking of what you just shared, and then where family comes into play, because, you know, some family members had expectations of us that, of each us, like your family might have had some expectations for me that I was going to submit to them and things like
that I have to go way back. That's so real. It is so real.
And it's just foreign to me. It was foreign, and that caused a lot of problems, but that's a whole show, right?
It is. We're going to do a show on family.
Yeah.
Right. And we're not talking about the immediate family, but extended family, because I think that makes for tremendous strain in a relationship as well. So I know that we have enough content to continue to go on, but I hope that this has, at the very least, created a churning within your thought process, within your heart, that's making you consider, have my boo and I, has Bay and me spent enough time talking about expectations such that we can confidently rest assured that needs are being met? If you can't answer that question properly, then what do you recommend?
You need to talk. And if you cannot come to a conclusion on your own, sometimes you need a professional opinion to take a look, because you might not see what you can't see. And that's the enemy's plan, for you not to be able to even see. Like, I had no idea why I just was so adverse to him working a third shift job, but it was all about me. And I was trying to make it about him.
And it wasn't supposed to be, but it was a reality.
Yeah.
And the only way we could overcome it is through talking. For us, by God's grace, we endured, because as we said earlier, it was years before we got certain levels of clarity and understanding. That's our prayer for you, that you will have the grace to endure, that your good thing will not be sabotaged. It will not be undermined because of poor timing, poor communication, and lack of understanding. What we hope to produce through this time that we share with you is to create awakenings, to prick your heart and your mind such that you begin to consider what you have not considered in times past.
And one of the things I constantly pray about everything, but I ask God to show me what he wants me to see and what the enemy doesn't want me to see.
Absolutely.
And if you are brave enough to pray that prayer, God's going to show you in the, even when you're not even expecting it. Like, I remember the breakthrough when the Lord showed me what my true fear was about him taking on that assignment. And if you pray it earnestly and you pay attention, he will answer that prayer. So again, Father, show me what you need for me to see, and show me what the enemy doesn't want me to see. In Jesus' name.
All right, people. We hope that you'll join us. Remember, click the share and the like button. I hope that this has been enriching and encouraging. And we invite you to be back with us again next Monday at 7 p.m. Until then, 7 p.m. Until then, go in God's peace and be blessed exceedingly and abundantly. We love you all. Take care, and we'll see you then.
Have a great week.
Bye now.